Should you go raw vegan or should you stay a cooked vegan? That's what we're going to talk about in this video here today. Over the past couple weeks, I've been 100% raw, minus one day last weekend where I had some corn chips and some hummus. But other than that, I've been 100% raw for 2 weeks. And I wear this Oura ring, and this Oura ring tracks my sleep, it tracks my heart rate, it tracks my activity levels throughout the day, it tracks various biomarkers of health, like heart rate variability, etc. And over the past couple weeks of being raw, I've seen an insane change in my graphs on the Oura Ring app. And I'm going to talk about what those changes I've seen are in just a sec. But that's what's prompted me to make this video. Because I've had this Oura Ring now since December, and so far my stats have been pretty stable. And then all of a sudden I start eating raw and things change drastically. So I'm going to talk about that. But in this video, let's talk about, should you be a raw vegan or should you just stay cooked? I was raw 100% for 10 years. And when you're raw 100% for 10 years, things just become normal. Like all the benefits that people talk about in a raw vegan diet, they don't really feel like benefits anymore. They just feel like that's just the way life is. You get used to it. But now that I'm back to being raw, I feel like I'm back in that honeymoon phase again. So I'm excited to talk about some of the benefits I've seen since shifting to a raw vegan diet. And what does that look like? Let's talk about what I'm eating. The only difference now versus a couple weeks ago is I've changed out my dinner from being cooked dinner to being a raw dinner. So I still have a huge fruit smoothie in the morning, maybe around 10, 11 a.m. I have about 1,400 calories, 12 to 1,400 calories of mangoes, bananas, and dates. Super simple fruit smoothie. And then for dinner, what I was having was guacamole and sprouted tofu. Put the sprouted tofu in the air fryer and I would just dip that in the guacamole. It was amazing. But now I don't have the sprouted tofu. Now I just have salad and guacamole. So I've exchanged sprouted tofu with greens. That's it. That's the only change. And I'm hitting about 2,000, 2,200 calories a day. And I'm 145 pounds right now. So that's how I'm eating, and that's what my day looks like in terms of diet. Really very, very, very simple. Now, before I get into the benefits of being raw, I want to talk about some of the downsides of being raw. And they're not crazy downsides, but they are downsides that you should be aware of. Downside number one is that you got to go pee a lot more. You got to go pee a lot more. And I say it's a downside. Although you are more hydrated, it's definitely healthier. It's a downside because if you're working like as a cashier or you're working as a teacher or something and you have to be like on your shift for a long period of time and you can't just keep leaving, that could really interfere with your job. So that can be an inconvenient downside for some people, although again, it is healthier to be more hydrated. The second downside is that rather than being able to just stay stocked up and eat cooked food for like ever. Like I have enough cooked food in my house to last me years. So I'd never left this house again for years. I'd have enough food to keep me going. But with raw food, I have to go grocery shopping. Well, I don't actually go grocery shopping, but I order groceries in on this app on my phone, Instacart. I'll post a link for it in the description. They deliver groceries to me like every 2 or 3 days now. Because I keep going through groceries. So like fresh greens. Bananas and dates, they last a while, thankfully. But fresh greens, they go. I eat them up very quickly. And then the third downside is that it costs more. It costs more. It like cooked food is super, super cheap. You buy a big bag of rice or a big bag of potatoes and it's like for $20 that could last you like a week worth of calories. But with greens, it's like I ordered like $50 worth of greens and it's gone in like 2 days. Not to mention all the fruit as well. So raw is definitely more expensive. But as you're about to find out, these benefits I'm going to tell you, this is where it's up to you to determine if it's worth it for you to be raw vegan or not. Now that I'm raw, the benefits that I've been reminded of are as follows. Let's start with the most subjective one. So the most subjective benefit is just mental clarity. It reminds me, the mental clarity I have now reminds me of the mental clarity I had whilst fasting. My mental clarity was insane. It was really, really like, it's just clear. I just saw the world differently. There wasn't like this fog over my reality. And you don't know if there's like this perception fog until it's gone. Because you just get used to it. It comes on slowly and you don't know it's there until it's gone. It's like that quote by Jesus. He's like, forgive them for they do not know. Your reality is like the way you see the world right now. Like when you look around your room right now, like you don't think that's crazy. You don't think that's different. That's just the way you see the world. But all of a sudden, if things change, you're like, oh, wow, things have changed. So that's what it's like to be eating a raw vegan diet. You try raw for like 24, 48 hours and see the difference. Things get very, very clear. So mental clarity has been improved, which is really, really cool. Colors seem more vibrant. You're just more sensitive to certain senses. It's a really cool feeling. You're just more in tune with the body. Like when I'm stretching now, I really feel the stretches in the muscles. When I'm touching my hair, I really feel the hair. When I'm seeing something, I'm really seeing it. When I'm talking to someone, I'm really listening. Like just senses are heightened. So mental clarity and heightened senses. Very, very cool effect. It's almost drug-like. Almost drug-like. And along with that comes a better mood, by the way. Because if you're like, you get this fog over you, it's very easy to get triggered by things. It's very easy to get anxious. It's very easy to get like frustrated. But when you're clear, things don't really get to you as much. Again, that fog is lifted, and so like that, with that comes like this weight is lifted, and you just feel better. It's like a better mood overall. So that's subjective benefit number one. Now let's talk about a couple objective benefits here, things you can measure. Number one is energy levels, and I say energy levels is objective because the way I measure it is like, am I napping? And I haven't had to take a nap over the past couple weeks, and I usually nap like once a day. And when I was eating cooked food, it was a little bit of cooked food. I was having a little bit of sprouted tofu. Maybe like 500 calories of my day was coming from cooked food. So out of like 2,200 calories, just 500 was coming from cooked food. But still, like I needed to take a nap every day to recover from that. So greater energy levels, and the proof is again, I don't feel like I need to take a nap. 2 weeks now, no naps. I just feel like I can go. Pretty sweet. Now the third benefit, and this one's like is especially objective because it's like there's some numbers attached to it, is like I talked about earlier with the Oura Ring. My sleep I used to be in bed. I'll post the pictures here on the screen so you can see. But I used to sleep on average, I think it was like 8.5 hours a day. Now I'm averaging like less than 7.5 hours a day. So I'm saving an hour a day in bed. I'm not sleeping as much. Saving an hour a day. I'm sleeping an hour a day less. That's insane if you think about it, because over the course of a month, that's 30 hours. What could you do with 30 hours? That's almost a full-time work week. Let's talk about a year. That's 360 hours. What could you do with 360 hours? That is insane. 360 hours. Wow. That's plenty of time to accomplish any big project that you want to accomplish over the course of a year if you just chip away at it. And right now you might say, oh, but Ted, there's only 24 hours in a day. I don't have the time. Well, maybe if you go 100% raw, like if you're a cooked fooder right now, you eat cooked food right now, if you just cut out the cooked food and you go 100% raw and you get the same benefit I've gotten, you can sleep an hour less, you'll have that time. That time will either come for you first thing in the morning, you'll be able to wake up an hour earlier, or you'll be able to go to bed an hour later and still feel fine. So that's pretty cool. Now, that's the one objective thing that I've seen with this Oura Ring, but the other thing I've seen is my sleep efficiency has gone up as well. You can see the graph, it starts a little lower than it goes up. So as soon as I start eating raw, you can see that my sleep efficiency goes up. And as soon as I start eating raw, you can see that my time in bed goes down. Really, really cool. So that's what I want to share with you about the benefits. Now I want to give you 3 tips, 3 strategies that you can implement so that you can succeed on a raw vegan diet, either short-term or long-term. Okay? And I don't think everybody needs to eat a raw vegan diet. I think you can get a tremendous amount of benefits just from eating a vegan diet. But if you want like these next level benefits that I'm talking about, clearer mind, more energy, and require less sleep, then I really do feel like you do need to eat a raw vegan diet. Now, I'm going to talk about how to do that, how to pull that off, how to make it easy and make it so that you're highly likely to succeed on it. Strategy numero uno is have a system. Have a system in place. And by system, I mean plan out how you want to eat each day. Like, do you want to have early breakfast, middle of the day lunch, late night dinner? Or do you want to have like early breakfast, early lunch, and early dinner? Or do you want to eat like I do, which is like brunch, like 10, 11 a.m. for breakfast, and then 3, 4 p.m. salad, 2 big meals, right? So have a system in place. And part of that system includes having your fruit already pre-thought out if you're making a smoothie in the morning. It includes being, stocked up on the greens if you're gonna have salad every day. Like, you've got to have your system in place, have your menu that you're gonna eat from, and then you got to make sure that you have everything in place. You got to make sure you have the ingredients, not just in stock, but like ready to go. So if that requires you to chop some stuff up ahead of time, then do that. For me, that requires me taking out the mangoes and thawing them out, taking out the frozen bananas and thawing them out. It requires me to sometimes soak the dates. If I have some like really dried dates, I got to soak the dates. It requires me to make sure I have greens stocked up, right? So have your system and make sure it's like set up for success. Okay, that's number one. Like, have your menu planned out, and then make sure you're stocked up. Tip number 2. Oh, and by the way, with that strategy, stick to that strategy. Don't keep changing it. Don't like one day eat early, one day eat late, one day like do intermittent fasting, the other day just graze. Like, pick something. If you're gonna graze, graze. If you're gonna do intermittent fasting, do intermittent fasting. Your body has a circadian rhythm when it sleeps. It also has a circadian rhythm when it eats and digests. So make sure you give your body time to adapt to a set system. Okay, that works best for you and your schedule. And try not to alter that on the weekends either. Same with your sleep. If you're like, oh, I gotta go to bed like 9 p.m. all the time, then on weekends you go to bed at midnight, you're gonna mess with your circadian rhythm. Your body doesn't know if it's the weekend. Your body doesn't know if it's the weekend. So pick your system and stick to it. 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, ideally like 365 days a year. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is eat enough. You have to eat enough. Holy smokes. Like, the only times I get cravings, the only times I used to like fall off the raw wagon is when I was hungry. That's it. Like, cravings, so simple. The easy way to get rid of them is just to fill up. Nobody craves cooked food when they're super full on fruit. Nobody craves sugar when they're full on fruit. Nobody craves any kind of food that they know they shouldn't be eating when they're full on fruit. So that's my second tip, is eat enough. We see so many people go back to not just cooked food, but go back to eating animals when they've starved themselves for so long. Like, I know so many people who've done water fasts, super long water fasts, and they've gone back to eating meat. Now, I'm not saying that doing a water fast leads to you eating meat, because there are plenty of people who've done long water fasts and they've been able to still succeed on a raw vegan diet. But there's a lot of people who do a long water fast or just starve themselves with this detox type of obsession, and then they end up going back and eating meat because they don't have a system in place I talked about for tip number 1, and 2, they're not eating enough calories on an ongoing basis, so they just crave that other food. Okay, so that is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is to do whatever you can to source out the highest quality ingredients. Like, your food needs to taste really good, and really good meals are just made of really good ingredients. So if you're gonna eat greens, find the best greens you can. If you're gonna eat mangoes, find the best mangoes you can. Make sure they're ripe. If you're gonna eat bananas, find the best bananas you can. If you're gonna find dates, find the best dates you can. If you're gonna find guacamole or avocados, find the best guacamole or avocados that you can. You have to source out the highest quality stuff. It needs to be really enjoyable. It needs to feel like, why would I eat anything else? That's how I feel every day. That's how I felt when I was eating cooked food too. Like, my cooked food was like the best. I was like sprouted tofu in my air fryer, dipped in this guacamole, so good. And that's how it's like now with my salad. My greens are so good, my salad's so good. And you got to make your sauces really, really good as well. Like, a great sauce, for example, is blending up mangoes, dates, and basil. Pour that over some zucchini noodles or some greens. It's amazing. Like, put as much fresh basil in there as you can. A lot of mango and maybe like 2, 3, 4 dates. Pour that over. Once you blend it up, pour that over your zucchini noodles or your greens. Amazing, amazing sauce. So those are some tips. Those are some tips. Have a strategy. Stick to it. Eat enough calories. And if you want an equation for eating enough calories, I find typically if you're new to raw, you kind of have to overdo the calories a bit just to really fend off those cravings. But once you've been raw for a while, you can get by with like 14 calories, 15 calories per pound of body weight. But I think if you're just starting out on raw, you want to aim for like 16, 17 calories per pound of body weight. So for me right now, I'm 145 pounds, and I times that by 14, and there's the amount of calories that I can be aiming for. But I don't really need to count my calories. I've been doing this for so many years, but for beginners, definitely recommend at least counting your calories for a couple days just to get like a ballpark idea of how much you really need to be eating. Because most people, they look at a bunch of bananas and like, oh my God, there's so many bananas. There's like 5 whole bananas in there. Realistically though, you need to be eating like 25, 30 bananas a day if like that's all you're gonna be eating. So most people undereat like crazy, and that's a big reason why they go back to eating cooked food and never succeed on a raw vegan diet. But yeah, you gotta understand the calorie, the power of enough calories. And then thirdly, like I said, just source out the highest quality fruit you can, highest quality greens you can, and make it really enjoyable. So that's it.